Hi, everyone. Welcome to the SVG On Demand, and I'm joined by Rod Allen, who is Bexel Senior Product Manager. Rod, how are you doing and holding up?
Very good. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Bexel, obviously a very important part of our industry and a big part of the NEP family, the NEP group, excuse me. Let's get that right. So I wanted to kind of give you a chance to kind of talk about Bexel and what you see as some of the strengths of the organization, especially, within the NEP group and what that has meant over the years. It's been how long? Please don't tell me it's been more than a decade. When was when did that acquisition happen? Do you remember?
It was about 3 years ago.
Okay.
It was about 3 years ago.
All right. Time flies for me. So sometimes 3 years feel like 10. So give me kind of the overview of Bexel, where you're at right now as a company, and what you see some of the strengths in the marketplace.
All right. Yeah. First off, thank you for having us be part of this. It's just a wonderful opportunity. So thank you so much. And one of the things that when we look at coming into a production and entering an agreement with a customer, the thing that I always look at is one of our strengths is our people. We have had the good fortune of being involved in some world-class events and smaller events and box rentals. We've been doing this for about 35 years. And so really we bring that experience to the table whenever we enter into a contract with somebody. So we really bring that experience to the table. And what we try to do when we enter in and talk with the customers is we really want to be their partner. We want to be not just another vendor, a subcontractor, but we wanted to help that production be the best that it possibly can be, and really work through with the customer on their workflows and the creative concept and what is going to be the best gear, what is going to be the best labor force to get that done. And part of doing that too, we assign a project manager to all of any of the system rentals that we do. We'll assign a project manager to. And that project manager really kind of glues everything together. We not only work on the financial side of things, with the customer, we'll work on the technical side of things and the creative side of things and logistics and all of that. And we've been with the NEP group now for 3 years. And so that's really opened up quite a bit for us. Bexel always had a really strong engineering and design background. But now with NEP, if the customer needs a screen package or a lighting package, we have experts on our staff now. We can bring them into the fold and help the customer, and bring a complete solution to that. Right.
Yeah, it's been cool. It's always seeing your teams at the Olympics, the Oscars, the All-Star games. Always kind of fitting in there nicely alongside the trucks, right? So obviously not necessarily a truck and your stuff on 4 wheels, but all throughout the whole arenas and the stadiums and the venues. Can you walk me through this whole COVID-19 situation, which obviously we've seen people offloading people out of trucks, right? And working from home and that kind of stuff. So how has that kind of opened up new opportunities for kind of the types of projects that you can get involved with?
Well, when COVID-19 first hit, there was, none of us really knew what was going to happen. We were all looking at what's going to happen with our productions. I had productions that were, in different different phases of production, and as we all did, even with NEP and the truck compound, the truck side of things. But one of the things that we worked with our customers on is, how are we going to actually do remote productions? In the sports world, a REMI we've been doing that for many years now. But in television, it was a relatively new concept. And COVID-19 actually made it even more strict, right? So now you were looking at the producers would be at home. The director would be at home. The audio engineer may even be at home. So we were working through with the customers on that workflow. How are we going to get this production done for them? So where it's safe for everybody. Not only the engineers, but the producers and the talent. How are we doing all of that? And we did a few productions. And one of the things that we've been doing, and actually the UK has already been, and Denmark have been doing this, is a hub and spoke concept, and where they have a hub that has a large connectivity pipe coming into it, and they'll bring in, either their truck feeds or their camera feeds, and they'll have their TD or their audio person in this facility, and they'll mix the show there, right? So we had different levels of that, and we were working through the customers on how do we implement that. We had started that concept in DC, and it was already in play and part of the roadmap. But when COVID-19 hit, that just moved it up and just made it more presence, and we just ended up moving that faster than we would have normally.
Right. Yes, I'm really curious to see how NEP Group develops. I mean, I talked with Brian Clark about the Gray's Inn Road facility in London, and obviously what you have going on with Vista down in Miami. You mentioned Washington D.C. I think it's going to be really neat to see how the role that Bexel plays in this whole new environment. And you mentioned, obviously the people that you have are amazing, right? From top to bottom. But really having the access to the technical resources, like you said, is going to make a huge difference. And to have those pipes and those hubs and spokes. I mean, you will be a big spoke, I'm guessing.
Yeah. One of the things that we found challenging with the whole COVID-19 thing is that if you really think about it, the production portion of it didn't really change. You still need all the elements. You still need to communicate. You still need to look at it. You still need to view it, right? So now what happens is, if you're the producer at home, now you're responsible for your equipment working. You're responsible for downloading the app. You're responsible for, if you need a comms panel application, that needs to be on a tablet. So we ended up doing more education with the end users than we had to on other productions, and really just kind of going through the workflows and just making sure that all of that stuff worked. And that was one of the biggest challenges when we first started.
Yeah. No, it's great. Always seeing, like I said, the trust that people have in your team, because it's always the same people from your team that are there year after year after year. So there's no bigger validation, right, than the fact that you're not having a lot of turnover of people working at these big events. They are trusted and they just get the job done. It's amazing. So congrats to that. So it makes it easier for you too when you're doing, right? So as far as, want to conclude with looking at a recent show that you've been involved with that kind of like lays out these strengths a little more. And I know you have some slides to share with us. So Let's take a look. And what is the show we're going to discuss? What is this project?
We're just going to discuss Love Island. And let me just pull that up here. Okay. So Love Island is an ITV production, and they came to us originally, and I had been working with ITV on other projects, and they came to us and said, "Hey, we're gonna go down and we're gonna do this. We want to do this show." And most of the time when we do these shows, we get a very loose scope of work. So this is an example of a scope that they put together, and we work with them to put together. But it was going to be shot on the island of Fiji. We were going to do a 24-hour turnaround, meaning as soon as they started shooting, as soon as that clip was done, they were just about starting to edit. It was a very quick turnaround, and it was going to be aired the next day. They were going to have 10 islanders and one host. The tech base portion of that was going to be about a quarter of a mile away from the villa, so we'd have to pull fiber down to that. We were going to actually be broadcasting out of Fiji via EVS and satellite, right, each day, and it was an hour-long show each day. We'd have 11 edit stations on site. We'd need a site-wide communication system, site-wide RF microphone coverage. We'd need broadcast camera chains, and we'd need robotic cameras. So that was kind of the scope of what we received. And so what we ended up deploying was, and this is part of the global portion of it too, since the NEP Australia team was closer to Fiji, we decided that would be the best way to utilize the resources. And so they put together an IP-based fly pack with their TFC system and a Lawo audio system and a Riedel comm system. And they got that over to Fiji. They did all the design. The NEP team was the Australian team was just phenomenal. They were incredible design engineers. The engineering team was great. They put together the whole installation crew, and they were all just incredible. I was the only person from the States on that team, and it was so fun. They were a great bunch of people to work with, just a super incredible experience. And so we ended up putting together this show, and we used 5 broadcast camera chains. a rail cam, 70 robotic cameras. And we, at that point in time, since Plus 4 Audio had done the UK version of the show, I figured it'd be less harsh of a transition if we just brought them in again to handle the wireless microphones. Even though we can handle the wireless microphones and two-way radios, I thought it would be less obtrusive to have them to just come in, handle that. They did the UK version. And then a company called Cutting Edge out of Australia handled all the edit stations and the recording system. So we worked closely with them. Well, that all went well. And during the show, we actually got approval for season 2. So we knew season 2 was coming back. And so we, as that all came back, and we started talking about season 2 in probably November or December, and we started getting everything together. And the thought was, you know what, we'll just do it again. We'll do the NEP Australia kit again. We'll do the same crew. We're gonna add a few little elements here and there to make the show a little bit different. And so we got into that, and COVID came around. And we called up Australia and said, well, we think the show's going to push a little while. It's going to push a month. Well, as we all saw how the world kind of shut down with COVID, we were all very concerned. Well, what are we going to do with the show? When are we going to be able to start doing this again? So we came up with a different set of specs and a whole different concept. And this is what the new scope will look like. Because it was going to be still a 24-hour turnaround. We were going to move the entire production to Las Vegas and tie together 3 hotels, 2 of which were completely shut down. The Rio and the Cromwell were completely shut down. And that meant that we were going to change the system design from IP-based to broad baseband, which is what we normally deploy here in the US. It's going to have 4 remote sets this time. And 2 of the sets were located on the opposite side of the freeway than the tech base. We increased it to 20 islanders. Host was going to be moved to Los Angeles. They were going to have 62 remotely controlled edit stations. And then the executives, consultants would be in Los Angeles, UK, and the Philippines. And they all needed to view and communicate with everyone on their teams. And we were going to put the loggers in Australia. And on top of that, we were all still learning how to deal with COVID-19. And we had strict COVID-19 bubbles, right? And very strict procedures. And ITV did a wonderful job of putting together, kind of choreographing that whole thing with the transportation and the hotels and the meals and your workflow and all of that, and keeping those bubbles really isolated, and keeping that whole production isolated and keeping everyone safe. And also we did it in the middle of in Vegas in the middle of summer. So there were days that it was 115 degrees. So that made another challenge. So in order for me to translate what I needed to do with my engineering team, I put together a document, and this is what the document looked like, just to kind of show my engineering team what we needed to do and all of the different facets of where everything was and physically where everything was. So we use this, and we would add more detail as I would get it, to put the system together to work with the customer to get the creative captured, okay? And so what we ended up putting together, we ended up doing 11 broadcast camera chains, 105 robotics, 40 channels of wireless microphones, and a custom RF distribution system with RF over fiber. We used all Yamaha for the audio side and had about 75 Dante devices. We pulled 37,000 feet of fiber optic cable, 7,000 feet of RF antenna cable, 16,000 feet of robotic camera cable, and about 350-foot trucks full of gear. Large matrix system. We used the RTS and Omnio on this with a Bolero wireless. And then we used Unity for an IP-based infrastructure, which we talked to all of the UK users and the loggers in Australia. We used that for talking with them. And then again, we work closely with Cutting Edge, who is a partner for Post, and they provide all the remote viewing streams. And then we work closely with the Switch for connectivity of the hotels in Los Angeles and New York. And it was a really fun, it was all very, very challenging, but it was very fun. People were their attitudes coming back after, some of them had not worked in a few months, and everybody was just wanting to get back to work and make the best product they possibly could. And again, ITV did a wonderful job of orchestrating that whole thing so that we could work. And okay, you had to wear a mask, but that was part of it. And it was just a lot of fun, and it was a great project to be involved with.
Excellent. Yeah, you guys are all living the MacGyver lifestyle, just vamping and making things up on the fly. So it's amazing.
It was a lot of fun, very challenging. Yes.
Do you want to do that again, or do you appreciate that?
Absolutely. It is fun. Well, I always look forward to, it's the people that surround you, and you learn something on every one of these shows. We learn something new on every one of these shows, and we can take that to all of our shows. And it's a fun thing. Very fun to be involved.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Rod, so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Stay safe, and we'll see you later this year.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.